Hey, this is Brett Weiss, retro gaming YouTuber and author of many books. You are listening to Scene World Podcast. It is totally awesome.
Sup? It's the Scene World Podcast. I'm over here, he's over there, and yeah, that's the cold open.
Welcome. Yeah.
In a minute, we'll be talking with Torsten Roeder from discmags.de. But before that, we got some news. Or I don't know if you have any news. I have some news.
One bit actually.
Okay.
From Emico.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
We haven't. Oh, dag! I thought that was kind of done with. I hope that was done with.
Well, no.
Okay.
I mean, the last bit of news was that that Atari took over, right?
Right, yeah.
For the rights of the software and games and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And also now they are actually expanding to Steam and to the Nintendo Switch. So that means you can get games like Evil Knievel, Finnegan Fox, and Cornhole for Apple TV, Steam, Nintendo Switch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last I recall of this was the box, the console itself was kind of.
They are still planning on producing.
They are still planning on doing that.
They are still.
See, I don't. Okay, if you're gonna make a console,
if they ever release it, it will be out at a time where the game has been released for all the other platforms.
That's
already.
what I'm saying. That's what I was gonna say. Like, if you're gonna put out the console, who's gonna buy it when you can get all the damn things on Steam? Like, how does that make any sense?
Well, for me, the killer app would have been, as you know, Earthworm Jim,
But again, you can get Earthworm Jim elsewhere. It's like,
but not a new one.
True,
Exclusive
title. A brand new Earthworm Jim.
But we know from our, exactly. But we know from our Gamescom panel interview with Tommy Tirico and Hans Ippisch that Tommy Tirico said, "We are not a retro console, so we are not releasing it." I'm like Earthworm Jim 4 would have been the killer app, the exclusive reason to buy the console, and then you say, "We are not a retro console, we are not doing it." Like, what?
But even that to base the entire the viability of the console on Earthworm Jim that's pushing it a bit. You know, there's got to be one exclusive title is not going to do it. You know, you got to have something, and that was what kind of the hype was these things that were going to be, you know, Amico kind of, you know, exclusive titles that were, you know, again, this kind of, you know, couch co-op is what Tommy Tallarico was calling it. That sort of like the games that were built for that. But again, if I can get that on the Switch or on Steam or something, then why the hell am I going to buy? Yeah, Apple TV. Yeah, why the hell am I going to buy the Amico just to, you know, to play the stuff I've already got and an Earthworm Jim game that I can probably pirate?
Well, I still hope Phil Adam will talk to us some point.
That'd be nice.
I keep asking him, but yeah,
well,
he keeps pushing it. He keeps pushing it for later. So
yeah.
Phil, the invite still stands. If you hear that,
Phil, come hang out with us. Settle our misgivings.
Yeah.
Well, I got a few bits here. One. No, don't go back there.
Pet control.
Yes. Yeah. Dang cats. Yeah, that's right. You keep walking. All right. Anyway, we talked in one of our last episodes about the the Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit Compo 2025
by Richard Bayliss, right?
Yes. And as of the 16th, which is a little over a week ago, I guess, the voting has begun. Entries are all listed on the submissions showcase. You can go and look at them and play them, and then you can cast your votes on who wins. I don't think at the time that we're doing this right now, it is the 27th.
Exactly.
And it does not look like they have announced anything yet. Just I guess the voting is still open, so you can go to that site. We'll put a link to where you can go and check out the games and try them out, and then vote on your favorites. There's been 14 submissions, so yeah, we put a link to that where you can get to that. We also, in a previous episode, talked about Amiga GPT, which was a Chat GPT implementation for the Amiga.
Right.
So that has now, the new version has added GPT 4.1 and image AI. I don't know how it works, because okay, so if there is image generation via DALL-E and speech output to classic Amigas. I'm curious how that looks. I mean, the Amiga can do graphics easy enough. I don't know what that would look like as far as, the image AI aspect of it, but it's there. So feel free to check it out if you are so inclined. Also, a previous episode, we talked to Greg Nasu about C64 OS. And as of the new version, which came out, again, about midway through April, about the 14th, 15th, something like that, version 1.07 has added networking. So the thing that we were talking to him about, he mentioned that whilst he was on the podcast, we're working on networking. So that's a big one. I believe that there are a couple of things that make use of the networking, and I don't want to say what they are because I don't have it in front of my face. Let me open the website and look. That would probably make it easier. Let's see. There is a C64 OS image search now. It's an internet-powered app that lets you search the web for images.
Image search for pictures or disk images?
Image search for pictures. Image search is an internet-powered application for C64 OS that lets you search the web for images, pictures, and graphics using ordinary language and back-ended on Google's image search API. Scroll through a table of search results, sort by name, source, original image type, and resolution. A rich panel of configurable options lets you adjust the contrast and brightness. Flip, mirror, rotate, crop, and zoom in on the image. Then download that image converted on the fly to a native C64 graphics video mode, high-res or multicolor bitmap. Images are downloaded directly into memory where they can be viewed in full screen or split screen. And when you've tweaked the image until it looks amazing, you can save it to local storage. Conversion happens in the cloud, allowing your C64 to consume massive images in JPEG, PNG, or GIF formats. Now, yeah, I said GIF. In just a few seconds. You control the dithering options, color space mapping, the palette, and the target C64 format. With the aspect ratio control, you can request images in the correct aspect ratio for your screen. Circles will actually look round instead of like ovals. So yeah. So that's available. That's I haven't tried it. I need to update my version. I haven't really had the 64 doing stuff lately. I need to do it.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things like that. As far as like the applications, I believe that there's a Wikipedia thing. There's a lot of stuff on it. But yeah, so that's available. Check it out. Download it. Link in the description.
I got some other news
Oh, nice.
just in my just in our inbox right now,
Yeah, you go.
and that's Star Citizen Squadron 42. So that adventure, well, the story mode of the game,
Right.
I would say, they actually released well, pictures of the crew of Squadron 42,
Right.
and also released a soundscape example where you can listening to the soundscape of the story mode aboard the Crew Gary flight deck. It's 6 minutes ambient sound. Yeah,
Okay.
And again, the release of the story mode, Squadron 42, has been postponed to next year, 2026. And as we remember, Gillian Anderson is one of the main actors of Squadron 42.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's one of those games I would really look to get into it, and I just never have.
Right, yeah. I have to admit, I bought into it like I don't know, like 10 years ago, when you could buy a ship for $50, lifetime access with the ship, but I found it so massive and complex. I didn't have the patience to explore a lot.
Yeah, there's so much of like you got to climb a mountain really to get into it. My brother's really into it. My brother plays it a lot.
Perhaps I should arrange a session with your brother so he can teach me, because it's like you start the game, you got in your quarters. Okay, good. So I have to get to my ship. How do I get to my ship?
Well, not only that, but you got to go through the whole process of, it's not just like you don't just download it on Steam. You have to set up your Space Industries account or whatever with the company that does.
Okay, I got that all.
Right. Yeah. And do all this other stuff. Set all this other stuff up.
Exactly.
I got to the point of I got to the tutorial of learning how to fly your ship, and I'm like, I've been here for 8 hours already. I need to eat something. I can't continue with this mess.
The problem is now you have your account, now you have your ship, now you are in your quarters, so you have to go to the deck and step into the ship. So you are on the station, and you have to find the deck, the right deck, where your ship is. Then you are in the ship. Then the question is, how do I start the ship? Okay. I started the ship. Now I have to make a trade mission. Now I have to heckle the contract, and all that little details. I'm like, holy crap! So when I start Star Citizen every couple of months, what I mostly do is select something like join a quick race. Or jump into a fight.
Right.
So I'm in the middle of the action. Yeah. I don't have the patience to do it the official way, how you would do it in real life, getting up from the bed in the morning, walking down the carrier, finding your ship, then unlocking your ship and all this thing.
You play games to get away from real life, not to just do real life all over.
Exactly. And excuse me, I'm still a bit sick. And then I see live streams from Sven Fössing, where he's actually landing on different planets, on different docks and stuff and stations, and though you have auto landing or manual landing and all this complicated stuff. And then I see other streams where people actually step outside of the fighter on a planet, on a moon, and go into the moon buggy, and then like cruising around the moon buggy and stuff. And I feel like, damn, I really would like to do that too, because you can.
You're right.
But till you get there to do all the fun stuff,
yeah,
it's a process.
The learning curve and the process of getting to that point where you can do that stuff is just like,
yeah.
Again, it's like I want to go and play a game for 20 minutes, 30 minutes whilst I got some time. If you're playing Star Citizen, I need to set aside a block of my day. I need a weekend to sit down and figure out what the hell I'm doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's some people, and I don't begrudge that. There's some people like Microsoft Flight Simulator is. I don't have too many games that I play on the regular. One of them would be Microsoft Flight Simulator, and again, I'll play that, and I'll go from the airport that is literally through the woods that way, less than a mile away from me. I'll hop from there down to one a couple towns away. I'll just do a quick one that way. There are some people that do like whole like 12-hour, New York to Japan flights and shit like that. Like, I don't have that kind of time. Like, good Lord, just kind of sitting there, and it's not like it's not the kind of thing where you're gonna end up in a dogfight or something. You're flying a jet, a passenger jet or something. 12 hours across an ocean where there's nothing to look at, and you're not maneuvering, you're just going in a straight line. I can't.
Yeah, and some people, as I said, doing it in real time.
Some people love that. Yeah, I don't. I don't. I'll grab the little planes that bounce around, and I'll just go from here to there real quick in like a 20-minute hop, and that's cool. I did my thing. I'm going now. But right. Yeah, to sit there, I can't block out that kind of time to sit there and look at nothing.
Did you ever finish your real piloting license?
No.
Huh. I think I ask you every couple of years if you ever plan to finish it.
Maybe. I mean, it's it's one of those things where so I took lessons in the 90s, the late 90s. So it's been a long time. I wouldn't want to just kind of, I don't even know if I can just pick up from where I left off. You used to be able to, but I don't know if that works now. But again, it's just the economics of it don't work because like, okay, so you're a plane is a lot of money, so you're either renting it or you're usually going in with some other people and kind of time sharing it, which, that's not great. Then you got to, there's the fuel and all that other stuff. And then, if it's something small, if I want to drive up to my grandmother's house or something, it's going to take me about 3.5 hours to drive that in a car. Or I can drive to an airport down the street, hop in a plane, fly about 3 hours, the same distance, because they don't go that fast, and you're mostly going by by sight. You're following roads and stuff like that. Get up to where you're going, land someplace. Now you have to either have someone get you, pick you up and take you where you're going, or you have to have a car waiting there already. Or sometimes they have like a courtesy vehicle, but that's not something you can use for like a week. That's go out to get some lunch and come back. So it's just the economic. So so when you factor in like the futzing around here, getting ready to leave, and then the futzing around up there after you've arrived, this turns into like this 6-hour epic journey for what I could drive in 3 hours. it's just it's fun. I love it. It's something I would love to have the time and resources and whatnot to do. It's just economically, it just doesn't make sense. All right. Anyway, now that we've gone off course into the airplane podcast,
Right.
I got one here. Here's an interesting bit of news, not airplane related. Maybe it is. I don't know. There is a new an RPG that is being developed for the Mega 65.
Mm.
By who is this? By Gabor Lipsker.
Never heard.
Yeah, I don't know who that is, but yeah, he's got a game called, looks like The Woods of Peril. Although I'm also seeing on the URL, it's The Thing of a Bad Thing. So I don't know which is the proper title, but so it's written entirely in Basic 65.
Mm.
There is a preview on YouTube. Interesting music. It's using the stereo SIDs, I can tell.
Mm.
It looks like it. I mean, I guess it's running at the full 40 megahertz, but it looks like a C64, like a C64 RPG.
Nice.
But that's, I mean, it's a good thing because this is one of those things that we talked about. Like I love the Mega 65 and the idea of the Mega 65. No idea what I would do with it because there isn't a software library.
You say it every time.
Yes, for the Commodore 65. So to see stuff like this, where it's like, hey, here's something that works on the Mega 65 that actually makes it a thing that you might want to use. That is fantastic. The more stuff that they make for it, the more of a viable product it is, I feel like. It's a shame it's taken this long because it's been 10 years since the Mega 65 was announced. It's been quite a while. And to just have stuff like this appearing now. And there's been some other stuff that's been in the works, but yeah, we'll put a link to the GitHub where you can read about all that stuff.
Awesome.
And whilst we're talking about modern 8-bit machines, there is a movie maker for the Commander X16.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I guess this is something that's been in the works for a while, for a couple of years. So there's a suite of software that converts formats like MP4 or AVI into X16 compatible files using a matrix of sprites for video and PCM playback through the Vera chip. So it's a little bit chunky and it doesn't have great frame rates, but you can watch a video on a 8-bit computer. So
nice.
Yeah. So we'll put a link to where you can see stuff about that. There's a couple of videos that explain the conversion tool. It looks like the conversion tool actually occurs on the machine itself, on the X16.
Nice.
It's not like a PC thing that converts it. It's but I don't know. We'll put a link to that.
Awesome.
And finally, I'm sorry, I got two more. There are videos available from the Commodore Los Angeles Super Show, the Class 2025 event, which I didn't even know was a thing until I just saw this thing now. But Robert Bernardo has added several videos from that on the blog.retro link website. So you can check that out and see all the fun stuff that happened there. And maybe next year go to that. I've never even heard of this one before. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Nice.
I'd like to find out who's responsible and maybe have them on here. And finally, the Commodore 64 C64 emulator. No, I'm sorry. let me start over. The Conomore 64 is a C64 emulator, which is also a hardware experiment that does not use software or FPGAs. So the developer, C1570, I guess is the guy's handle. He has built a proof of concept that works using a parallel network of RP2040 and RP2350 microcontrollers. So it's a C64 emulator built with microcontrollers. So it aims for original to replicate the original thing, chip for chip, kinda. He supports HDMI video and audio output, accurate down to microsecond level timing. Fast loaders like Jiffy DOS and stuff work like they should. It supports real hardware and user port devices and expansion cartridges. So yeah, I guess right now it's just a proof of concept, but maybe it'll be a thing that comes out. That's an interesting idea. I'd like to know how you replicate, how you emulate a SID using microcontrollers, because that's a really difficult thing to do. Yeah. But yeah, so we'll put a link to where you can check that out too. I don't know if that is something that is. Yeah, it says it's not user ready yet, but yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, links to all that in the podcast description, and that's awesome. My news for this time around.
Okay, so now let's jump to Torsten Roeder and talk about Discmax.
Let's do that.
Woo! So today we have another guest, and today we are talking to Torsten Roeder, and he is known for being the maintainer of Discmax.de since 2023, which is a collection of Discmax, and you are also an expert on the theme Discmax, and you are also working for the University of Würzburg, Germany. And perhaps, because you can pronounce it better, what kind of department of the university is that?
Yeah, thank you very much. The department is called Center for Philology and Digitality. So it's a department of the University of Würzburg, and people come together from different fields of studies. So there come some people from information technology, some people from musicology, some people from German studies, and so on. So it's intended to be a crossing for more than one discipline. And that's
awesome.
Very productive. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, and you came in the picture from me because when I was Googling, like, sometimes I Google, like, where are we hosted Discmac-wise, and I actually saw you had an entry for one of my earlier Discmacs before Scene World, actually, which was a Pulp, the German basic Mac, and I was like, oh, that's very surprising. Somebody figured that out.
Was that the name of it, the German Basic Mag?
Yeah, exactly. That was Pulp. Yeah, that was actually
the name. Like the Deutsch or something, or
it was German. Yeah.
So how would you say that if you were actually saying the name of the
Pulp?
All right, need to have a look into that.
Pulp, actually, yeah.
Pulp. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. No, I see. I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
so is it Pulp or Pulp, or what is it?
I would say Pulp, actually. And
POLP,
so the story was that the original maintainer actually stopped doing it, and so we had an unfinished Maxis for issue 3 that we completed, but then we figured out it's too much time to rewrite the disc Maxis every single time and so on. And so we decided we go with a scene world actually. Well, perhaps let's start with the beginning. Torsten, what was your touching point with computers and IT, and actually finally being the maintainer of such a nice project?
Okay, that's a long story, but I guess we have
We
some
have time. Yeah, we have time.
Yeah,
Indeed.
let's I think I got of course, I think like everybody in that era, like in the 1980s, 90s, I got for my birthday, I think it was my 10th or 12th, I don't remember exactly, birthday, when I got a Commodore 16, and the small one. Just as a birthday present, and I tried it out, and it was interesting in a way, but it was not that trivial as we would, of course, use computers today, or what we would expect from computers. I tried to talk to it. I tried to type hello, and it said always syntax error, and it was very disappointing, to be honest. And with a little help from dad, from my mom, from my grandfather, who and actually I was who gave it to me at that time. I managed to understand how this works, how the keyboard works, and how to start a program. Actually, I typed in the program completely and didn't and was not understanding why it wouldn't start. But I figured out like weeks later that I have to type in run, which is which is difficult to figure out if you are 10-year-old and you don't have any friends who who know about these computers, and your parents don't know either. How should they know? It was a little discovery, and but then after discovering like the basic commands, it went I got sucked in a way. I wasn't a great programmer. I think I became more of a gamer probably. So in the food chain of crackers, swappers, and consumers, I was at the very lowest level. But we trained, and sooner or later, I think when I got a C64 2 years later, I think. Um, we also had floppy disks, and that was the moment when we began swapping at the schoolyard, swapping games and so on. And I also had an Amiga later, but I think the very defining phase in my relation to computers was on the Commodore 16 and the C64, I think. And many of my friends, of course, had the same machine, and everybody was practically enthusiastic about it. That was a very nice time, and I think it was in around 1990, I guess, when I first saw a disc mag in not on a copy from the schoolyard, but in a newspaper stand, which I could buy for like a couple of Deutschmark. It was probably Magic Disc or Game On or something very similar. I don't remember exactly, but that was my first connection to disc magazines. And yeah, and really liked the idea of these disc magazines. They had content, they had programs, they had games, of course, and they had reviews. It was really nice, a very nice mixture. Every month when the disc mag came out, I had something to do. It was not only one program, but it was a bunch of content and software. That was actually the nice experience. It is still today, I think. It was also nice that it had music, of course. And it was a multimedia experience, which was completely new, I think, in that era. And I more or less for the within the next decades, I forgot about all that.
Okay.
The internet came, and I didn't care very much about floppy disks anymore. And yeah, I became something like a programmer for research projects, and did a lot of internet stuff and so on. And yeah, and I think it was about 5 years, about 5 or 6 years ago, when I talked with a friend of mine, Klaus Rettinghaus from Leipzig, and about disc magazines. I don't know how we how we discovered that topic, but we were talking about C64, about the good old times, and so on. You know how it works, and we also remember disc magazines, and well, Magic Disc, well, Game On, this and you know that, and so yeah, and the discussion kept running, and we are working in this area um, of cultural heritage. So and usually we aim at preserving content from the last, I don't know, from the last 2,000 or 5,000 years, by digitizing it, and like, for example, digitize an image of images of a notebook from old scriptures, from old stone tablets or whatever. That's our work, more or less. We do we create digital images. We provide transcriptions, and instead of producing a book and putting it into a library where only a few people can access it, we it is our task to put it on the internet, so that many people can access it.
Awesome.
And and then when we were talking about Discmax, we were connecting these Discmax and heritage.
Perhaps one thing we should make clear for the non-Germans. You mentioned Magic Discs, Game On, and Golden Discs. Those three Discmax actually were published by CP Publishing, which later was renamed to Compotech Publishing, which actually is the publishing company that Hans Ippisch worked for. That later on tried his luck with the Amico from Intellivision, just to make the connection. Yeah. And Hans Ippisch, before he started working for CP Publishing, he also was a coder for Rainbow Arts. And in the later years, Rainbow Arts actually coded games for the cover disc of Game On, Golden Disc, and Magic Disc. So this is the connection between all those things. Just to mention it, because I guess most non-Germans don't know where those Discmax are actually coming from, and that's actually where they're coming from. So yeah. So that's actually how it started there. It's interesting because what was Lodestar for Americans was basically those three Discmax on the, as I said, newspaper stands for Germans, basically, right? And of course, Austria and the German side of Switzerland, perhaps. So that's to make the connection there. And interesting now, what was the jump where you said, let's make an archive for the university I'm working with?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we saw, like, we talked when we were talking about Discmax and our little chat, me and Klaus. We realized that Discmax is a phenomenon which was like, on the hype in like the 1980s and 90s, but in 2020 it was like an era, a forgotten era, more or less.
Depends
And
on who you ask, right?
of course, not. It was still active in some parts, and that needs to be said. Um, but it was very different from the production was less intense or less compared in comparison to the 90s, I guess. And we realized, and actually Discmax are kind of digital heritage. There's a lot of material that has not been um, collected by public institutions, of course, by many private institutions or like private associations, or private initiatives, CSDB or Scene World or whatever. There is a lot. There is a lot going on. So I guess people made their own archives, of course, but usually this is for books, for example, and it's also it's a thing for libraries. So and every library has to gets a copy of every published book, and the National Library and usually collect these, and they get archived for eternity, of course, or for a couple of years, or whatever eternity is, and so what we did some research, and we were wondering, have library actually archived Discmax at all? And it turned out that they did not. And that's what then we were coming up with an idea to create a catalog that for the first time actually creates a database of Discmax, which is independent from all the private initiatives, or which connects the various portals and databases which already exist. There exist
Yeah.
many separate databases here and there, and there is DemoZoo, of course. There is
Right.
CSDB. There's but sometimes they are limited to a certain to one slice of the cake, and we want the whole cake. So we want to be international. We want to cover as many systems as we can get to understand the phenomenon of disc magazines. So what is a disc mag in Europe? What is a disc mag in America? What is it like in Japan or whatever? Yeah, and it turned out to be a lot of work, actually.
Yeah. I mean, for the Commodore 64, at least on the German side, there is Ferdinand Gansberger from Austria, and on the English side, there is David Simmons, also known as Jazz Cat from Australia. But apart from that, you are much more extensive, and as I said, different platforms, not only Commodore 64. It's quite interesting. And I also saw you also held presentations at events, hacking events and stuff. So you are a pronounced expert on the field, going out there, holding presentations and so on.
Yeah, that's true. So I covered two. And the thing is with the experts, on what level are you an expert? So then some people like you are experts for specific disc magazines. You know the C64 scene from your heart. I do not. So I'm not. I'm more a general. I have some kind of a general expertise on disc magazines, while the knowledge about the scenes on the various systems and the specific knowledge about your disc magazine, for example, and many other disc magazines is still somewhere else. I collect and I try to connect it and to tell a story about disc magazines in general.
Yeah. So a bit similar to the floppy fever guys from the Netherlands. and
sure.
Portugal,
Yeah.
that we had the honor to be part of their book and also had as a guest here on the podcast. So it's quite interesting. Yeah, well, so, but on a university level, that's a whole new game, isn't it? I mean, you must have more resources than any of those private entities you've mentioned.
Yeah, that's a good question. Currently, I do not.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and that's the thing with the university and funding. You need to apply for funding, and then you get money, and of course you need to make a calculation. What kind of how much do you need, and so on, and can you justify this the requirements and so on. But yeah, and I'm currently working on it on such a grant application. We already had a little funding for 1 year for 2023. That is like the first phase when we build up the catalog and a little infrastructure and so it's a wiki-based system, and we got a little funding for that, and also for the first data ingestion. Um, that was funded by an infrastructure program in Germany called Text Plus. I don't know, probably nobody will know that outside of Germany, but I mention it nonetheless. Yeah, it has been supporting us very well, and and yeah, and after you have finished a project, and actually you need to apply again for some money. Yeah, but still, it's we have this website. It's maintained at the university. It's hosted there. It will, they won't shut it down, of course, because it's a project. It was a research project. It's meant to be online there as long as possible for research and for the community, of course. Yeah.
And I
So
also
that's
saw
one thing
that you
we can guarantee. Yeah.
and I also saw you also translated articles and Discmac content and descriptions and so on for some cases, right?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, it depends. Yeah. So we so I need to. I think I need to talk a bit about this project and which
Yes,
Sure.
we in
absolutely.
23, and we were assuming from from a list. I think from a list on Wikipedia that we would find about on an international scale, and that we would find about 200 or 300 disc magazines in total, with like, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 issues maybe. And yeah, this was definitely a complete, complete, how do you say that?
Illusion.
Yeah, it was it was a fail. It was and we found like 2,000 magazines, and like with 10 or 12,000 issues in total, um, amongst all platforms and then and times and systems and so on. And I still expect to find more, but and that was the moment when we had to set some priorities and what can we actually achieve in 1 year. So I had a very good group of students. They were very enthusiastic about this material, and and what what we did, we had to, and we first collected all the information from the different portals, Demozu, from I have to look that up. It's like,
CSDB probably
yeah,
also.
CSDB, of course, and we know also that they are linked together sometimes, and
And Puet
um,
is the third big one.
Yeah.
yes, I guess so. Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We also have a lot from the Internet Archive. That was also interesting because it's a different scene. They have MS-DOS magazines, for example.
Mhm.
And one student found Z Express, which is for Spectrum ZX. and which covers actually Russian language magazines, and I wasn't expecting to find anything of that, but he knows Russian because he's from Ukraine, and he did a lot of very nice research on that, and and we also used the Folko Encyclopedia, an encyclopedia of Discmax.
Oh,
Yeah,
good
I mean,
old.
yeah, exactly. It's like 78 disc magazines mentioned there, and we also used Cold Boy. So we had like these 2,500 titles. What do we do now? And we said, okay, we have to focus. Let's focus on German disc magazines because that's where we are, where we start. We know the language. That's what we focus on, and we did that. So if you find something in the catalog, and if it's German, then the information is more reliable than the rest of the catalog. Um, and that's how we will probably proceed, how this catalog will grow in quality, and how this catalog will also um, develop further. So we had this this project which was focused on German language disc magazines, which was already a lot. Another student made we had actually two more students projects. One student focused on East Central European Discmax, like from I think it was Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and some other countries I don't remember exactly. And another student took the challenge and read nearly 30% of all the Russian language disc magazines. That was very interesting because she found out a lot about the scene. She learned about the contents, and it seems to be in a way similar to the Western European scene, but it still has some unique features. For example, they don't call themselves disc magazines. Interestingly, they call themselves modem magazines, or modem gazetas in Russian, I think, more or less. I don't know Russian, so it's probably not well pronounced. But that is the term they use. They say we don't actually use floppy disks to publish our magazines. We transfer it via our phone lines. So let's call it modem magazine. And
That actually makes
that's
sense.
very interesting. And another point, for example, they are much more politically oriented in many ways. They always rant about the oligarchies in the 90s and so on, for example. And this they have a very much very strong political orientation in a way, which I haven't noticed yet so strong and with such a strong quality in the Western European countries or Western European Discmax. But my knowledge is limited, of course. So if you know about any examples, well,
Yeah, I wonder how about hybrid magazines. Like in
Hmm.
Germany, we had Input 64, which
Oh yeah,
actually was a disc mag and a paper mag complementing
yeah,
each other, and also there was a data set version. So you
Oh,
also could
really?
get
yeah.
cover tapes. And
Hmm.
I guess there
Hmm.
were other magazines like Zep 64 also had cover tapes sometimes.
Ah,
And
right. Yeah.
I
Hmm.
think in Italy you had Ready 64.
Yeah,
So in
yeah.
Europe we had some tape magazines. I
Hmm.
wonder, is that too far off, or are you considering? I mean, if you have a
Yeah,
D64, D81, or a TAP file,
yeah.
who cares? You know?
Exactly, yeah. So we also want to cover tape magazines, of course, and yeah. So it's called a catalog of disc magazines, whatever that means. So the name Disc Magazines is chosen because this type of magazine, this type of content plus software in electronic form, has been mainly produced on on floppy disks, or to be read on floppy disks, to be used on floppy disks, and to be copied on floppy disks, and so on. And of course, there is no exact moment in time now disk magazines start. So there are like forms, hybrid forms, or the form is developing from other media before and media after. So we also, I already told you about these Modi magazines, and yeah, it's still valid. It's the same type of magazine. It has the same properties. So it still needs to, so also modern magazines need to be mentioned in Discmax, of course. So Discmax is a very general term here.
Right.
I know, of course, it's meant to be more specific, but I can't use it with that specificity
Right.
if I want to catch the whole thing, right? And of course, tape magazines are being included because of that.
Which is
And also
interesting. So
the hybrid.
that means your project is the only one in at least when it comes to the Commodore 64 that also covers the corner case. Because if you look on
Mhm.
the archives from
Yeah.
Ferdinand Gansberger or David Simmons, they totally leave out the tape mechs.
Yeah.
Because they
Yeah,
say, no,
Mhm.
it's not on disc, so we don't include it, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, which is okay in a way. So every catalog or every database or collection of magazines has a certain focus, of course, and especially if you want to provide more material. So usually, like Gansberger's page provides also covers and as a scanned covers and tables of contents and so on. We can cover that. It's simply too much work, and we don't have the rights to do that. Actually, that's a small problem here and there. So we don't include copies of the disc magazines. We just link to places where you can find a copy. So it doesn't contain any copies, but it will show you where to find them, because we don't want to run into any legal issues here. And yeah, so that's the thing. And it's actually very nice if there are other collections or catalogs which can provide more specific information, and even maybe digital images or scans of the cover pages or whatever. That's very nice. But we won't include that probably in this stage of the project.
Right.
Yeah, and that's right. So it's like different levels of how to provide information. Yeah. So I try to make it as broad as possible to catch the whole cake, actually, and not just one piece.
How do you go about problems like damaged issues or missing issues or I don't know, unreadable files?
Yeah.
Do you have some kind of expert that goes into the code and tries to fix stuff or make them readable in, I don't know, in clear text, plain text? Is there
Mhm.
something in the works? I mean,
Yeah, there is
for
actually.
for such a big database, there must be more actually.
Mhm. 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 Yeah, that's probably a thing about the so-called sub-collections. So if some student comes up with an idea and says, "Well, I want to extract, for example, all the text from German language disc magazines." So one of the students did that. I think his thesis is already published, and it can be read online. It's very interesting. I think it's probably linked somewhere on the. Oh, maybe I've, or if it is not, I might have to link it. I have to do that actually. Yeah, we can put that in the show notes, of course.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, and I will put it on the catalog. So what is the thing about these? So if someone wants to go deeper into the material, and has the resources for that, of course. It's always a question of resources. Yeah. And for example, if you do a thesis for your graduation or whatever, and then you can dig in and say, okay, let's take this as an example. When you want to extract all text from all disk magazines in German language to understand more how what was actually on these disk mags. Do they cover which topics do they cover? Can I maybe provide a full text search and search for very specific terms? Am I interested in games or in politics or whatever? And can I make maybe a little statistic about that? And and that's what a student, Thomas Storin, did. Um, he he wrote a little program that extracted automatically from C64 German language disk magazines, which is like 90 titles maybe, or a little more. I'm not so sure about the exact number. Um, and it was not very trivial, of course. You guess why? Because often the text is not encoded as neither as ASCII nor PETSCII, but sometimes compressed or
Yeah.
has another form.
We
Maybe.
also level pack our
Yeah.
text files. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you can't. It's sometimes difficult to guess, but he developed a mechanism so that in like the majority of cases he could extract it. It was like a so-called heuristic approach, which guesses this could be text, this could be an image, or whatever, and was quite reliable. Like for I don't know the exact rate, but I think it was at least it was somewhere between 60 and 80% of all the files could be identified, and if it was text, it could be extracted, of course, and and he did a little work and I think also on the German special characters like umlauts and so on, and um, and and with that collection, with that extracted text collection, you can actually search through all German language disk magazines now. With a certain limitation, you need to ask us because we are not allowed to publish it. We don't have we simply don't have the rights. We could just, of course, we could do it, but from a legal perspective, it's not. We can only do it for research under certain restrictions, and yeah. And what we still want to provide is like a small service that does not give you the whole text, but it gives you information on if you, for example, search for a certain game or for a certain title or keyword. Any keyword could do, like cracking, hacking, or like katakis or whatever, China sisters or what. Yeah, I don't know whether that's even interesting, but it's all the same. If you can search for a term and you get the information on which issues this term is being found.
So it's
So
more like index search rather
it's like an
than
index.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's an index. We are allowed to provide that. We are not allowed to provide the full text because of the legal issues. We can't just publish a whole work, but we can publish an index, and that's what we are currently working on. Yeah, and so there might be more like these such little projects which dig into a very specific material, and try to do something with it. Yeah.
That's interesting. You talk about the legal aspect of it because that didn't really occur to me because to me most disc mags were not commercial entities. They weren't.
That's true.
Lodestar, for instance, is a C64 mag. There's a couple on the wall. They were actually like that was a thing you bought. Either through a subscription or you go to the newsstand or somewhere.
Yeah.
But a lot of these magazines are just kind of put out as like a hobbyist project. So like where that falls on the legal spectrum, because there's no like official copyright to it that I know of. There's no publisher putting it out. So there's blocks with that as well then. Yeah.
The thing is, if you create something, you are the legal owner of it from a creator's perspective, and that's a fact. That's immediately when I write something down on paper, like write what I did today. I create a work, and that's automatically, even if I'm not interested, then it's my work.
Right,
Legally, it's my work.
Yes, it's true. You have to actively mark it as Creative Commons to make it free.
Yeah, for
right.
You have to waive your rights of your intellectual property, and it's an active act to give the rights to reuse it in some form to others. Maybe we are. And I know about the scene and about how most of the disc mags, of course, are like kind of open product, and it's a commons product. So if you cite and want to reuse or remix another person's work, you just cite it properly, and that's it. And you don't need to ask for the right to do so. You don't need to ask for permission. But we cover both commercial magazines and community magazines. And sometimes it's difficult to understand which magazines were commercial, which ones were community based. I know that most of the magazines are community created, of course. We just don't want to run into any legal problems with this project to keep it alive. And what we did, of course, the thing is, we created a little private collection to conduct our research. And if another researcher comes and says, can you please give me the collection I need for another research? Of course, we can make a private copy for that person just to conduct his or her research.
Right.
Yeah, but we won't publish it.
Is there a way to for others to contribute to it? Like if they see something inaccurate, is there a way to be like, hey, this is, this entry needs you can add this to it and whatnot?
Yeah, definitely. We had some. Now and then I get an email from creators saying, well, this information here and there is not correct.
I did that. Of
course,
I was
you did.
Very happy about that, and to see that many of the magazines are still alive actually, or are being reactivated, for example. That was very, very nice to see.
And also afterwards, János actually joined me, and he helped him with Overshadow issues. So the Hungarian C64 magazine. So actually, I was like, wow, somebody who's really onto it, So really good. Yeah. But because let's be honest, many databases are not regularly updated, or sometimes you have like fights for what is right and what is wrong and stuff. For example, CSDB. I remember there is another database that has regions separated by Asia, Europe, America, and I'm like, Asia is not a region because China is PAL and Japan is NTSC, but they wouldn't fix it. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
what
Yeah.
can you do, right? Like, what? You know,
Yeah,
it's
it's a decision. And somehow, I think also in the Dismax catalog there are probably here and there some questionable modeling aspects. Of course, not from my perspective, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it's a difference if you make a mistake, an honest mistake, because you
Yeah.
don't know better,
Yeah.
or if you decide to make your own rules that contradict reality.
I see. Yeah, of
You
course.
know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm.
try it out. Try to play a, let's say a European Paul from China NES game on a Japanese Famicom without patching it. Good luck, you know. It, it's like there is no TV standard called Asia.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Mm.
You know,
Mhm.
that's a difference. That's a difference. And it was like, wow, for a database, that's like the whole database is not
There might be one called
retake.
Dendy.
Yeah,
That was a weird one,
Dendy is
yeah.
Dendy is a special thing because it has the cartridge slot and pinout of the NTSC Japanese console, but actually it runs on PAL. But that's a corner case, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I
Mm.
mean, especially on the Discmech sites, it's actually important to take into account that, because if you try to run a PAL magazine on an NTSC 64, it could crash actually. You
And
know?
and will crash.
Yeah, right. So, and that is why my I think when you make a fundamental mistake like saying Asia is a whole region on its own, it's a death for your database, because they don't take it serious enough. You know, that's just my opinion. I don't know how you see it, but
Well, I mean, and it's
yeah.
also, I mean, you're talking about also classification based on culture rather than, the because something like this, a disc mag, you know, like games are games. You can, NTSC or PAL based on what they run on. But a disc mag, there's a cultural aspect to it as well because it's writing and it's all that other stuff. So you can say like, I've never read a disc mag from Asia, so I don't know what that's like. You were saying that the eastern part of Europe, they tended to be more political than the other half, probably because of the things that they have to deal with on a daily basis. So that's just how they tend to skew. And that is a good cultural divide then. If you're going to do like Europe and North America are one thing, and then, Eastern Europe, Asia might be something totally different. So it's
Right.
really, there's really like a question of like, like there's so many different ways to categorize it. There really isn't a proper way, a correct way to do it.
Yeah. No. But then you are right here. But then I would say cultural
Yeah.
categorization and not like technical categorization.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it shouldn't be mixed up, right?
You know.
So
And
that's yeah.
in my example was actually NES and NES Famicom and Nintendo made the classification there, and that was Paul
Mm-hmm.
GB, USA, NTSC, USA, NTSC Japan. So, yeah.
11D4. Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting back to
Of course, we
real
can
quick,
also
getting back.
always remodel our database, but it's we and we are still working on it, right? So we have to find proper vocabulary to describe these magazines, and we yeah we, and when you develop these data fields like this property value scheme, which is which is typical for every database, right? Um, you more or less very, very quickly can run into deep problems if you don't do it right from the start. So there were some issues we didn't we thought of we would like to do with it, but we wouldn't. And we encountered some problems here and there. So, for example, can we make a division between commercial disc magazines and community-based magazines? To a certain extent, we can. But how can we? What is the criteria for it? What is the criteria for a commercial disc magazine? Does it need to be sold on in a newspaper stand? How can we know today? We need to ask people. So probably we will not find that out. We does it mean it has to be free? And sometimes you had to pay like in stamps or I don't know whatever, or you have to send in a blank floppy disk, and so that's not really free. To send in a floppy disk, yeah, more or less, right? So of course the copy itself is still free, but it requires a little action from your side. You don't get it. And so it's sometimes difficult if your criteria are, to make your criteria actually work, like this Asian European, or is it a geographical thing? Is it a cultural thing, or is it a technical thing? What is it actually? What is the essence of your category? And and sometimes it takes a little time to find it out and to make the categories work properly. But I think you had another question. Sorry.
No,
Hey
I was
Jay,
just
yes, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, jumping back to the part about outside contributors working. How would they do that? Would that just be like an email to the
Oh yeah, and they
website?
can just write an email, and I will respond. Sometimes quickly, sometimes depending on the case, or my personal situation maybe, because now currently I'm the only one who was working on the catalog actually, but I will try to update it if I have concise information what needs to be updated. I can do it very quickly. Sometimes I have to do a little research on myself just to validate the information. So if someone says there is a mistake here and there, and okay, I will have a look into that. I will check it again from my side, see if it's if the other person is right, and then I can correct it. Yeah, so that's currently the way. It would also be possible to include collaborators, active collaborators, to actually work on the wiki itself. So it's a wiki-based system. So it's probably very it's low key. It's very simple to use, and it's also possible to import. And to create an Excel sheet. If you have there's a list somewhere on that page with the column names, and if you so you can then I can import like a list of issues, for example. If there's a new disc magazine, you don't need to create each page for each issue by yourself, but you can just send in an Excel sheet, and I can ingest that into the database. And then you can correct the details manually, of course. Yeah. So that's how it works. So the best way is just to contact me. I think the address is info@discmax.de, and
It is.
drop me a line. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm.
I see. There's about 2,500 disc mags in here. I think I've probably been involved in about half of those. So I'll I'll look through these
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, we have the current number is let's see. I think it has 2,515 disc magazines by title, and which results in currently 17,578 single issues.
That's a lot.
But duplicate records still have to be resolved. So it's the information in the catalog is reliable for the German language magazines, for the I think also for the Russian and East Central European disc magazines, but for the majority of English language magazines, we do not have an active sub collection yet. So I did some work like for Lodestar. You mentioned Lodestar, and for soft disk as well, which was quite some work. There were I think I'm not sure how many issues Lodestar has, but I can just look it up.
I think 200, 201
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's a lot, definitely. About 200 and something, right?
The final issue, there's a little bit of a I don't know if that really counts because it was kind of put together after the fact, like unofficially.
I see. Yeah, it has about 200 entries. Yeah, that's but by some mistake, I don't know, and it was the double number before, so I had to check all the entries, 200 entries, and just delete the duplicates.
Wow.
250.
And that can sometimes happen when one disc magazine is represented on more than one database. So it's no problem when CSDB and Demozoo, they are connected very well, and we can identify that. But sometimes it's also it has been uploaded, for example, to the Internet Archive, and it's sometimes very difficult to say that's the same issue. So just by the title, sometimes you do not know exactly. So in another case, it was I think the problem with the Internet Archive was that they uploaded the A side and the B side as two different with two different uploads actually. So we had two entries for one issue before, and that had to be merged, and so the number was higher before.
Yeah, there are 249 actual issues of Lodestar, and
okay,
an unofficial 250th.
Wow, okay, yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
And also interesting, speaking about disc mags, at least on the C64 side, you have disc mags that changed their name in between, or you have disc mags that actually skipped issue numbers because the creators didn't remember what the last issue was. Super weird sometimes, you know. So
or they change the numbering system or whatever.
Exactly.
Sometimes they have no numbering system at all, or one I think one magazine has a numbering system in hexadecimals, which is also very beautiful. I don't remember the name, but it's a nice case. So you actually you can find anything.
Right. You probably know that from JazzCat. He actually, on his archive, he has a page called "Did You Know?" and there he has all the curiosities listed.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's quite nice. Yeah. I wonder. I know some months ago I tried to connect you to the corner cases of Discmax, like the guy from Peru and the guys from Floppy Fever and some other people. Did actually come anything into fruition from that?
Yeah, it's actually some people wrote me. I still have to answer some people's emails, and but we already had some context here and there. The thing is I can't give it highest priority. But I still try to sometimes it just takes a couple of weeks until I can and until I find the time to dive back into this topic. But usually, then I think 2 weeks before, I had a very nice talk to Eric Rohwald, and that was very nice. I think we will continue talks, of course, and
Awesome.
yeah, and I think once in a couple of weeks I can take some hours to give it to the catalog and disc magazines. So it's and I hope it will be more in the next months and years, of course. Mm.
So you mentioned earlier that you always look for funding from the university. So how
Yeah,
does that go? Is there anybody in the university who actually understands what you are doing, or are there just old people in their chairs, farting around and like let him talk? How does it actually work?
yeah. And I gave him many presentations on this material, on the project, on disc magazines, and people were often very enthusiastic about it, and said, "Yeah, you have to write a grant application and so on." Uh, the the most difficult issue is probably are still some legal issues which have to be resolved, and how do we what can we do with the stuff actually? How do we collect it? How um, that's one thing. We can still go with the current form of the catalog, which is already valuable, but actually we want to do a little more. We want to preserve the whole stuff. For now, it's lying around somewhere. We have links to somewhere, which is nice, but we would actually um, um, have a more um, yeah, we would actually like to achieve that we can are also allowed in a way to build up a real collection and a real archive that's it's downloadable maybe, and with possibly also very similar to the Internet Archive, which displays Disk Magazine in your browser. That would be very nice if we could have that. For the moment, it's a bit complicated, and we have
Yes, it is.
Don't
Yes,
tell
it
me
is.
about it. Don't tell
Yes,
me
it
about
is.
it.
but the ideas are there. But to answer your question, usually people are very they like the topic. They also like the material. Every time when I show a presentation with a
Mhm,
C64 background and the first like some slides of the from showing a disk magazine in action, and
mhm.
I start a emulator on my machine, and people can hear that magazines are not only visual but also they have music, and they have this really multi-modality in a way, like
Right.
they and that was also already in the 80s and not in the 2000s or whatever. In the 80s, before long time before internet came publicly available. Hmm. And that is what fascinates most people, I think. Yeah.
But I was not speaking about most people in general. I was speaking
Hmm.
about from the point of view of university funding.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Hmm.
guess you have some decision makers and
Yeah.
that have to
Yeah.
make the decisions. Is it like you are one project of hundreds and you have to battle to get your funding,
Yeah.
or is it that some people who make the decision actually understand, at least on a basic level, what you are doing? Or, I mean, just to explain it, my father, for example, he thinks I'm sitting here playing computer games all day. That's his basic understanding of using a computer. Writing letters, playing games, home banking. That's it. That's all the and that sounds very, very sad in a way and funny, but it is this way. And so I wonder, how is it for you as a researcher? If you can, of course, talk about that. I don't know. I mean, you don't have to spill the beans too much. Perhaps on a basic level, how does it work? How do you grant or ask for funding?
It's exactly as you described. You have to complete with 100, 100 and or 1,000 other projects, which are also always, not always, but mostly very good. And money for research is, I think that there is money, of course, but it needs to be divided by some, And sometimes there are so many very good projects and very good ideas, even if you have the best reviews for your application, there is still someone who needs, I don't want to say throw a die, but it feels sometimes like that way. But it feels like that because you don't know what exactly is the reason for acceptance or non-acceptance of a grant. So sometimes it's on a political level. Sometimes they just do it pragmatically. So, for example, you have 10 projects. You can fund only 5 of them, and they are all. Let's assume they are all excellent, and you see, okay, we have we can maybe we can cut the money a little bit and give a grant to 6 of these projects or even 7, but the three most expensive projects are out, for example. And then it works like that. But it's one example how it can work. It can also be very different. They can also have a look at the institutions, that the institutions are equally represented in an application. So another example would be you have 10 applications, 5 applications from the same institutions. What do? It needs to be to divide it equally amongst institutions. You give it to the other 5 probably, or you choose only one. You say it's only one per institution, and this level of decision making you don't have any influence because you don't know what the other players do, and so it's a little bit, you need to be lucky, of course, and and
they give you. I know. I used to write some grants for a small educational organization, and we would, if we didn't get it, we would usually get like a thing back saying like, "Here's why," and they would essentially tell us, "Here's what to say next time," to try to get something, you know. So you don't get like the notes back, like this is why we passed over you this time.
Yeah, sometimes you get it. Yeah.
Okay.
And if it's a well managed program, you usually get some feedback on your application, and you can try again.
Awesome.
And that's what I'm hoping for. So I've started writing an application for that, and let's see what comes out. Maybe for.
I mean, just another example. The Floppy Fever guys. They told us in the interview with them that they were only granted for printing 1,000 copies of their books physically, and then it turned out you can still buy it nowadays. So it. They actually was so successful that they actually are still allowed to print it and sell it.
Where was it? Germany that they made demo scene stuff a part of cultural heritage or something?
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, we spoke with Andre Kutra about that.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think it's UNESCO on the UNESCO list of I think of immaterial, of non-tangible
Right.
heritage.
Right.
But that is for demo scene, not especially for Discmax.
But a
Exactly.
lot
Yeah,
of
it's the
disc
demo
mags
scene,
come out of the demo scene.
still very nice. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
you want to say?
A lot of disc mags come out of the demo scene, at least on the C64
Right.
and Amiga. A lot of them are kind of demo. I mean, usually coded by demo coders because it uses a lot of the same ideas in there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think currently, if you say demo scene, disc mags are more or less included in the in this
Right.
what is
Right.
meant by intangible heritage, like in practicing and in the practices of the demo scene. So yeah, they still produce disc mags. So who else does? Nobody probably.
Yeah,
Right.
because that's not how it used to be. I remember when Lodestar. Yeah, I remember
I'm
when
sorry.
Lodestar discovered the demo scene. That like blew everyone's minds, because back in the day, I mean, that wasn't commercial and demo scene were like two totally different animals.
Right. Right.
It wouldn't cover the commercial side of disc mags and the
Mhm.
initial phase probably. So it covers the current scene, but it doesn't cover the
Right.
historical scene.
Right. I mean, the reason why I wanted to make this interview is actually, I think from a scientific point of view, this is so much more than any private database or any private person can achieve. I mean, in our case, we had one of our staffers from the Netherlands. He actually was invited to Rotterdam to present Scene World and its history, and he was getting money for traveling. He was getting hotel costs reimbursed, and food and stuff, and all those costs as a private person unthinkable, and in some cases you also need to buy plane ticket if the person is from abroad, or a train ticket if the person doesn't have a car. And so seeing it on a scientific level, I wish that was possible way before the 20s, but well, just happened in the recent years.
Right, and I'm wondering if that is maybe because of how media is consumed these days. Because back, a few 10, 15, 20 years ago, disc mags were kind of like this subculture genre thing, and over the last 20 years, with the internet being the way it is, like the lines between like a published book and a self-published thing that you can get on Amazon. Anyone can put out a book now. Anyone can put out an album, a music album, put it up on Bandcamp or something. You don't have to worry about the big companies doing it anymore. And it has kind of blurred what is official media. It's like, is it like a book published by a publishing company, or is it something that someone just made? And the quality of that in a lot of instances is the same. So I think people aren't these days. I don't think people look at this as necessarily like a niche piece of like unofficial hidden media, in as much as it's something that is like, there is like that cultural heritage again of the history of it, and the fact that it's still it's a form of media that is in the world. I don't think I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does actually, and it's an important point, I think. So you were talking about how media are consumed nowadays, and how it was like, for example, around 1990, when we had no internet actually. We still, some people know how to create disc mags, of course, but it was difficult to publish a book, for example, or also very expensive, right?
Right.
Yeah, and that's true, and I think creating a disc mag from a certain point of view in the 1990s was easier, I than publishing a book, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
And
was
today
even
is the other way around. Today's the other way around. You can
Yeah,
go print on demand. Whoop, no problem.
Yeah, that
But
is.
but finding people knowing a sampler for a C64 and not so easy anymore. So
Well, and hurting
I mean,
the
it's a question of one personal expertise and of resources and so on. But I think on a German magazine there was also a program called Discmax Creator or Discmax
Right.
Creator or
Yeah.
whatever
Right.
it was.
Right.
So
Yeah.
everybody could could create a disc magazine, and I think everybody did probably. Maybe even I did, and I and I don't remember. Maybe for good. And and so that's and it's. I think it's a question of media history, and this is very. And our relation to digital media is very fluent in a way. So if something gets a little older, like 5 or 10 years, it's old. It's being abandoned. So we
Right.
don't do that with books. You can still use a 100-year-old book. Why not? You can still read it. But with computers, it's different. We give them away. We say, yeah, just throw it into the bin and or whatever. And it's maybe a part of a certain logic of economy that new devices need to be sold. Better devices. The story is this new computer is better. You can do more things on it, and so on. And so you can buy a computer every 5 or 10 years. So it's a question about. So it's like it's a part of an economic system, but that also means the culture we create or the artifacts, the digital artifacts we create on these machines, they get incompatible. We forget them. They are abandoned together with the machines, more or less, and we do not think about that for like 5 or 10 years. We forget about it totally after 20 or 30 years, and then someone comes and says, "Well, there were disc magazines," and people start to remember, "Oh my God, what is going on here? That was like my computer, like 30 or 40 years ago," and then people realize that that is some kind of lost heritage.
which is so funny because I never stopped. For
Right.
me, I never did a break. I never was past for me. I had my Commodore 64, and that's it. So it's so interesting for me to hear about. I had a break and I didn't do it, and for me, it's like I'm probably a unicorn. I always used it in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Huh.
Yeah, that's cool.
Huh.
Yeah. It's also very interesting that new people and younger people start doing that, start working on C64 on devices which are compared to nowadays devices are very extremely limited. But it's these limits also have the beauties. You can exploit them. You can work with them. You can be very creative within these limits, and this is and also that is very fascinating. What you can do with that, what you can achieve with that, and that is very nice. I have I have a room, a so-called laboratory, and retro computing laboratory, as it called. It is called at the unit at my university in Würzburg, at the so-called Center for Philology and Digitality.
I will dream of that tonight.
No, you shouldn't. Dream of something else. But and And we have a room there with like 20 or 30 computers with monitors and computers from the 80s and some a little bit from the 90s and 70s as well, and to which offers an opportunity to the students to work with these old machines, so they can turn it on, write a little program, and try how it felt to use a computer in the 1980s, which is unique. Which doesn't happen so often in your life, I guess. Yeah, and actually only once.
Yeah.
So the first experience is usually the most
The last.
interesting moment.
Yeah.
And what I do with the students, I do not explain anything. I was just thinking of myself when I got this Christmas present, like a Commodore 16 here. Okay, so what to do with it? I had a computer, I had a little TV, I had some cables. I don't know how to plug them in. So and I give this setup to the students, and they have to make it work.
I remember. I wanted to ask something. You said you got a Commodore 16.
16.
I
Yeah.
wonder, because you said it took a while till you found out you had to type in the command run. But
Yeah,
actually, in Germany, when you bought a computer from
yeah,
Commodore, it had very good German manuals.
yeah. It has,
Didn't you ever read it?
I did.
Nobody reads the
I also
manuals. What are you
copied
talking about?
the programs from it, but I just didn't understand at the moment the how to make it work. I didn't
Ah,
understand the language, how it, it
the
was,
logic behind it. So
yeah, yeah,
it
exactly.
was not about missing documentation. It was
No,
probably
no, no,
about your
no.
age.
Actually, not at all, not at all. No,
Oh,
Well, that's
it
you
was
know.
like I was not prepared to think in like computer ways, like
Yeah.
in
Well, plus when
see what I
you're a
enter is a
kid.
command and then it responds. I
Yeah.
enter something else and then it responds. It's like this dialogue, um, and um, and the difference between a program and a command like run. So and I understood it when I was doing it. So that's still how I work today. I understand things when I do them, but when I read, I'm I'm often lost.
okay.
Yeah.
Has
Plus,
not
when
changed
you're a
at all.
kid and you get something, when you're a kid and you get something and you want to mess with it. I remember getting this thing when I think I was like 8 or 9 or something,
Right.
and we hooked it up, and I had no experience. I wanted a computer. I didn't know what to do with them. My idea for a computer when I was a kid was the computer book from Inspector Gadget, which is not a thing that exists. So we turned it on and get this thing, and I don't know what I'm looking at or what to
Mm.
do with it. So we're and we're looking through the book trying to read it, and of course I didn't read it before I hooked it up. And then you're typing in like the programs in the book. I don't know what it means, why this does what it's doing, or you do the load, in the asterisk X1 or 8-1, and I did that for years. It took me years to understand what the 8 was for,
All
and
right.
what this, yeah, exactly, yeah, to understand like the how it's parsed. And then once you do, it's like, oh, okay, this makes more sense. But when you're first starting out, you're just like let's do something, and it's like blinking cursor, okay, like what is this?
Mm.
Yeah. What is going on here?
Mm.
What can I
Yeah.
do actually? Yeah. 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 That's interesting. And by sometimes, I mean, and of course, there were very good manuals, right? And we had these print magazines with many code you could copy as well.
Mhm.
And but the most interesting thing happened probably when I was copying code from the manual or from those magazines into the computer. Um, so it's like learning a language from your parents, right?
Yeah.
You don't have nobody explains how English or German or whatever language works. You
Right.
don't explain it to a child. You can't. It's make doesn't make any sense to explain grammar to a child. But children learn by just by copy and paste. By imitation, right? And that's I think that's what I did more or less. I copied code, and within the and by the years, probably saying years, I learned something from it. I learned how that's a loop, I guess. That's a subroutine. Oh, I see. This is okay. This is something else or whatever it might be. This is assembler code or whatever. And so you learn by doing. You do not learn systematically. How you probably learn it later when you study information technology or whatever. And that's a very interesting way of maybe also unusual way of interacting with computers, because computers have a certain I don't know, they I want to say this, they propose that they can be, and everything needs to be understood like intellectually, but
Right.
they also have a language you can learn, like learning a language by heart, or like a natural language can be learned, and then you interact with them also more naturally. And that's what maybe what in a way happened on a ground level, and in the 80s and 90s, when all these computers were sold to many young people at that time. And we have a totally different approach to machines, to digital devices nowadays. They just do what we expect from them, more or less. They're very intuitive, and it's very different in a way.
Yeah, I mean, you have things like Alexa, for example, that you can talk to like a normal person, and she would do stuff.
Oh, she didn't hear you this time. Normally, when you say that, she starts talking.
Ah, well, she did, but you didn't hear it.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's maybe this close relationship when you start like communicating through the language of that like basic or whatever programming language it might have been. It maybe it attaches you a bit more
True.
more a bit deeper than a device which you just use for a certain purpose. Just
But
for
nowadays,
text or whatever. Yeah.
but nowadays, youth has a different issue. I mean, for example, give a baby a book, and she will try to swipe the pages. Or
Really, is that a thing?
yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Or youngsters in their, I don't know, teenagers nowadays, they never operated a normal computer with mouse and keyboard, because they are like the touch generation. Why
It's
would
true.
I use a mouse and a keyboard if I can just touch with my fingers on the screen? Just
Yeah,
on a
that's
normal PC you can't. That's the problem.
true.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, in my laboratory in Würzburg, when we usually learn how to load a game, like that's whatever it might be, Genesis, Katakis, Ghosts and Goblins, some classic, right? And I just show them a classic,
Pac-Man.
and they I don't have a joystick. They usually hold it the other way round.
Right.
The cable usually when you use a joystick, the cable goes
Up.
to the computer, right?
Right.
But they are used to the how do you call these? The game pads, right? From the
Right.
the one the cable is in the other direction, I guess, for some
Actually
reason.
true. Actually true. Yeah.
And they hold it the other way round. And, at first, then they get it's wrong, and
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I never thought about it, but true. Yeah. It's the same with, I know the two keyboard layout, Germany and English by heart, because you couldn't get a German keyboard layout
Right.
and
Yeah.
for the Commodore 64. So for me, it's no issue, you know.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
totally understand. Yeah.
Mm.
So another question is, what is your future plans? I mean, assuming you are getting your next funding granted.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we were talking about funding before, right? Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So assuming that that I get some funding here and there, or that some student comes and wants to do a project about a part of the collection, maybe.
Or I have rich parents
yeah.
or something.
Huh? Sorry.
Rich parents to jump in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. You are
There
welcome
you
to
go.
make a donation. Yeah. And the future plan would be first to consolidate the data to make it better, to make it more reliable. We have for now parts of the collection: German language, East Central European languages, and Russian language disc magazines, which is already nice. So but we still need to cover much more. It's only like 20%, which has been controlled for now, and we have to check all the entries actually, all the single entries manually. I can do that maybe every couple of months. I can say, okay, let's care for this magazine today, and it takes a day, and then I can. And one of the titles is it's being curated for them, but there are thousands of titles, so it would require actually a larger scale project. And assumed we get that, and I assume that we could within 3 years make the catalog consistent in a way that that the data is correct, that we have links, the web links for all the resources controlled, and made a backup for all the disk magazines, for the disk images. And the step after that would be to connect with the libraries, or with the or with other institutions like museums, archives, whatever, and ask them to connect, so that the data from our catalog becomes included into library catalogs somewhere, so that the knowledge that DiskMax actually existed is not only visible on diskmax.de. I mean, to find this, you need to know that DiskMax actually existed, right? And I would, my plan is to to put that that knowledge into the libraries, so that anyone who is doing some research on the 80s or 90s culture, maybe also on digital culture in general, or whatever, is able to
Nerdism.
find information on disk magazines. So that would be the plan, and to make it a visible part of cultural heritage.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So where can people go to find out about what you're doing?
Sorry again.
Where can people go to find out about what you're doing?
How they would
Like do your website and whatnot. Just like the
For now they can find about the website. Sometimes they can find I've written some articles here and there about that. There are some recordings of talks here and there, but usually in very limited in limited communities. So mostly in scientific communities, of course, because that's my background. But I've made the experience that it's very important to talk to this, like, for example, here in a setting like this one, to talk to a broader audience. For example, I also talked at the Vintage Computing Festival last year, and in Berlin and in Munich, I think, and some other occasions like the Chaos Computer Congress in Hamburg 2 years before, which was a very nice opportunity, because even in the very computer in the communities which have a very close relationship with computers, they do not know. Sometimes they are not aware of that Discmax actually existed, and that's a very, very interesting, because I was thinking that it was like that it was a phenomenon that went with the computers actually, but obviously it was not so well known. Yeah, and that's interesting because of that, and I try to talk about it in as many different settings as possible, because each time I talk about it, I get a different audience, and so the knowledge is spread. Yeah.
So basically, your homepage Discmax.de, you're not on social media yet.
Yeah, that would be a very good plan for the future as well. Like to set up like for example, a Mastodon bot which posts once a day or once a week some just automatically some information about, look at this disc magazine, it's great. We have a link or like which posts updates and the social media game would be definitely a part of the of a larger scale project, and so I'm not good on Instagram, but I guess some students would be probably if I get some people to make screenshots, for example, from the title pages at least, it would be nice. And that's interesting material to make people curious about this material. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time. Awesome.
Yeah, we'll put links to everything, to the website and all that stuff down in the
yeah, great.
podcast
Thank you very
description.
much. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a very fun. We talked actually quite a lot. Yeah, like 90 minutes. Yeah.
Almost 2 hours, almost 1 hour and over a half.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, on a scientific level, amazing. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's amazing, and I really hope you can secure some funding and grow your project. That would be amazing. You know?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I will let you know definitely, because you're already a part of the catalog.
All right, thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye.